Hello, everyone. My name is Evan Auyang, president of Animoca Brands. I'm very happy to speak to you today at Synopsis Istanbul. And the topic is Web3 on the cusp of mass adoption. We believe that the markets obviously is a bit bearish in terms of where we're seeing in digital assets, but we do believe that mass adoption is about to come, and I'll just tell you why. I don't know if there's that much introduction to me, but what I would like to talk to you about is that, first, what is maybe three topics, the Web3 and market observations, mass adoption and our own journey. It's just an update to you guys because I think I spoke here last year as well. I don't know if the organizer introduced me, but I would just tell you where I came from and why I joined Web3. I'm actually a super sort of traditional industry guy. I was born and educated in Hong Kong and then went to the US. So my high school, college, I was in the US, and then I joined, to financial institutions, first with Bankers Trust, and then with Citigroup doing derivatives, and then later on got my MBA, went to McKinsey for a number of years, switched career to run companies, starting with a transport company, which is a bus company, for-profit bus company, and then expert network from GOG. And after 20, I guess this is about 27 years of corporate experience and financial institution experience. I joined Animoca Brands, which is very much like a startup. It's a very large startup almost, right? And the reason I came into it is because I just had so much experience within my education, etc., and experienced so much about corporate that I actually believe there's a lot of weakness in shareholder capitalism. So we talk a lot about CSR, ESG, CSV, etc. There's so much concentration of power of companies, especially in Web2, that there is definitely indeed a way to decentralize and give power back to the people in the internet, right? So I do see that Web3 is a philosophy. It is about empowerment. It is about digital property rights. It is about fairness, equity, the equitable distribution of value add. And as we go forward, we consume so much content. There's so much about creators economy. And the channel seems to be sort of getting a lion's share. Distribution channel seems to be getting the lion's share of the value add from it. Doesn't seem to be fair. So what can we do about it? So my basis of going to Web3 after doing all these traditional industries is like, can we make a better world, right? So I just want to make that as an introduction so that you guys sort of know what I'm trying to get at and what I want to look at. The premise really in Web2 is that there's a data value chain and there's a data monetization chain where your data is mined quite permissionlessly in a way that is without your permission, not in a blockchain permissionless way, and then it's mined and monetized, not providing you with any value whatsoever. But the platforms like Google, like Facebook, etc., they do sell you targeted advertising. You are a bit of a commodity in a way, and whatever you create and the value that you add, the time that you've actually spent in the internet doesn't come back to you anything except for social interactions and likes and all that. You might like that, and sort of like there's a social value add to this, but then ultimately the data platforms become really big, but they don't really compensate you for it. So ultimately, what we want to do is that, in Web1 is kind of like, in a web, you sort of sign up with your, username and password. Web2, you are really in, shall we say, digital kingdoms where they don't really communicate with each other, right? So Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, etc., they don't share data because data is the monopoly, right? And if we are to spend even more time in the internet space, yourself, your children, your grandchildren, etc., do you really want the data monopolies to be dominating your lives? What you see, the news that you read, the attitudes that could be changed by them, simply because of the economic paradigms they set up for you. I sort of like this connect wallet concept in Web3, where your identity, etc., is really a matter of what you provide to them, right? What you provide to third parties from your what you're comfortable with sharing, and they should attract you. Like the goods and services providers should actually attract you rather than sort of like subliminally changing your attitudes to buy with their goods and services, right? So anyway, that's the premise. And we talked about blockchain being internet of value ultimately because we are now able to put information and put digital asset ownership as enabled by blockchain. Therefore, there's value overall rather than information just being copied and pasted, right? And the basis of digital asset ownership is likened to a like an automobile in a lot of ways, right? So why is that example? Is because back in the good old days in the Model T that's built by Ford, they do everything, right? And right now, you cannot even imagine that, with driver systems, safety systems, battery storage, auto repair, Lyft, Uber, can it be like that vertically integrated without that kind of, specialization? So what we believe in, once there's ownership, then there is composability. Once there's composability, then you can actually build much better worlds with this, right? As you open source and open up platforms, ultimately there are tons of possibilities that can be had, right? So the automobile doesn't have to be made by a single manufacturer. This is the same thing as the digital space doesn't have to be composed by a single operator. It can be decentralized as well, right? Now, going to the markets a little bit, yes, there's a bear market right now, but we still see active wallet addresses still growing. So the space is still developing overall. If you sort of look at market downturns and you look at sort of the comparative is sort of what happened in the 90s and 2000s when the dot-com bubble actually bursted. But many, many companies, right, during sort of bear markets actually have arisen because they're strong and they become the future leaders of the industry, right? That's what we see. And ultimately, if you talk about Web3 applications, they will expand, right? From the initial NFTs, crypto users, as brands and sort of like, gaming industries and then, large consumer companies now going into it, you're really expanding the funnel larger and larger. So there's only room to grow, right? Because ultimately, Web3 is about consumer empowerment in a lot of ways. And that is not a trend that you can actually fight, right? Yes, the market is bearish because of, ultimate interest rates are higher. There has been speculative activities, but ultimately, right, it is really the promise of what is the philosophy that underlies Web3 that would actually spur adoption. Again, coming back to markets a little bit, yes, on the multiples, forward EBITDAs are going down, but we also believe that in terms of investments or companies come up that are building right with good value is going to come as well, right? So same thing as sort of what I just talked about earlier, right? The winners will emerge from the challenging times, right? And let me turn a little bit to the consumer side. We do believe that Web3 is highly relevant to the consumer market, to brands, etc., because it can go direct to customers. There's engagement. There are new revenue streams available. Loyalty can be completely thought of differently in lots of ways. There are tons of new revenue opportunities. For example, ticketing. You would imagine that it wouldn't be just the normal ticketing that you would see 5-7 years later, maybe even like 3 to 5 years later. We would imagine that each ticket would be blockchain based, right? Because it just doesn't make sense to be doing it in any other way, right? And these are some of the things, right, on this page here that could potentially change a lot of what our lives look like based on this promise, right? And in terms of identity, something I do want to talk about is that, we've been very used to centralized identity, right? So state issued identification cards and archive stuff. But, funny enough, right, even though this is so centralized, your ID card doesn't actually say anything about you as a person. In fact, who knows about you um, as people, and for those of you who have children, we would actually bet that Google and Meta and Apple might know more about your children than you do. because of the footprint that they leave, right? And if you look at your own social graph and look at what it is that you've been sort of like the stuff that you purchase, whatever that you've done in the digital footprint, is sort of like that is your identity ultimately, right? And we believe that ultimately the digital identity's importance is it's already globally recognized, but there are new ways of doing, right? Self-sovereign identity is ultimately what we want to see, right? And identity theft right now, it's common, especially in the age of sort of AI, deep fake and all that. It's it's a very viable identity. Digital identity is actually key, and then the data that you actually carry is very important, right? So yes, there is difference between sort of centralized identity, federated identity, which is what ID provider will provide you, as versus self-sovereign identity, which is locked by the blockchain via zero knowledge proof, where there's between you and the institution, you and the peer, is that you can actually build self-sovereign identity platforms, right? Which is actually one of the things that we have been working on. We actually launched Mochaverse as an NFT collection, but it's really not an NFT collection. It's really a self-sovereign identity system, right? So we have about 9,000 Mochas. We have about 113,000 realm tickets. And what we're trying to do is that we're trying to chain this together in in an ecosystem that activates our entire portfolio of companies of about 400, 450 portfolio companies, right? So how this actually works is that there's a Web3 identity pass. Basically, it's an SBT, it's a soulbound token. They can claim this actually is available right now. And with that, you use your identity to then engage in our platform by earning experience points. There are partners there that you can sort of like discover, work with, and we'll put our games on there. We'll find additional partners in there that is going to become something they're engaged with, and you can earn loyalty points on. It's kind of like mileage program of airlines, similarly, right? And given what we see is that we're expanding our users from gaming to maybe like our portfolio companies to Web2 users as well. Then we expand a funnel for more and more onboarding, right? So that's the way we see it. We believe that there are hurdles, obviously, to Web3 user growth. There's user friction, discovery, fragmentation, participation. So we're trying to chain this all together into a single platform that's easy for partners and our gaming studios, etc., and our partners to onboard users. So XP system, Mocha identity available right now. If you go and search up Mochaverse, you can earn XPs. You can actually check out what is it that we're doing, and we believe that this is the growth model that we would see could be one thing that we'll work on. So I know we're famous for gaming and being an investor, but we are also working on platforms of infrastructural stuff, such as Mochaverse, which is a very big topic of ours. Obviously, Soban tokens, we believe, has great potential. We believe ultimately your CVs, your history of what you do, you can carry that forward, again, using zero-knowledge proofs. You don't have to disclose the identity, but to prove, you've done certain experiences, you've been to certain schools, it'll all be sort of done through SBTs, right, which cannot be moved or sold. So that's sort of what we see as one of the futures, and it's incorporated into the thinking of how we are doing Mochaverse ourselves. And obviously platform I talked about, so there will be a 360-degree experience across different genres of things that we believe you can do, right? So that's a little bit of our vision about what we're doing. And I'll wrap up with sort of our own journey and focus. We are obviously a very global company. We are headquartered out in Hong Kong, but we have studios all over the world. And we have sort of moved from, I guess, you can say Web2 mobile gaming, which is where our roots were, and then into Web3 gaming, into investing, into ecosystem building. Now we're also doing services, right? And then we, of course, hired extensively and built a lot of capabilities. So there's still a lot ahead of us. We believe that the industry is nascent at this point, still nascent at this point. And, every market goes through cycles, right? Internet cycles, economic cycles, etc. We're not phased by it. We're builders, right? And our business model really is three pillars, right? Operating businesses, like the Sandbox is our operating business, and we're building additional. We have another, 20 subsidiaries that we have. In our asset management portfolio, we have two funds. One is a ventures fund, one's a growth fund called Animoca Capital Partners. We still do some direct investments, and then we have advisory services as well, which is there's token advisory, fundraising, etc. So the whole spiel of service. In terms of how our model gives ourselves that flywheel. Ultimately, nobody really does what we do in terms of that synergy that we see, because once we operate a business, we're actually able to understand what it takes to build great companies, which helps with our investment process. Our investments also gave us more opportunities into maybe perhaps investing into operating businesses. But advisory, given this third-party advisory, we can also not invest in companies, or we invest in companies and help them as well. So the whole thing that we do is a synergistic system of activities that we believe will give us the best way forward in actually contributing to the Web3 space. And our portfolio of companies is not just gaming. In fact, 400 is, maybe, less than a quarter in gaming. We are very diversified, and we're in a lot in infrastructure capabilities and DeFi, etc. So we're in lots of different aspects of Web3. I talked a little bit about the investment portfolio that we have. We have accelerators, we have ventures fund, we have a capital fund. So we deploy capital across the spectrum as well. And then this is our services, which we have, which is we do tokenomics design, we do launch planning, we'll help with marketing, and also we make markets because we do have a digital asset team that facilitate liquidity, right? So we have the expertise across that allows us to have that synergies. And finally, we talked about Web3 services and solutions, and we do now have that capability because from us being able to deliver that end-to-end service in launching games and launching anything Web3 related, we're now also able to do things such as loyalty, digital ticketing, even we say stadium management is exploration, white label marketplaces. So we are also exploring the solution space and working with enterprises, and lots going on in terms of what we're doing. Some highlights in 2023, right? We have definitely innovated through the bear market. We have started community building and scaling through Moochers. We've done real world asset tokenization through Open Campus, which is actually an education platform that we have in tokenizing education content that teachers has built and we have sold. And some breakthroughs in the way we did Rack League, which is a 50% share with purchasers of NFTs who purchase those NFTs. We have supported portfolio companies, and then we have seeded growth foundations of several companies, including developing the Web3 ecosystem token that we have, and then helping brands, Web2 brands, put it in the Web3, etc. And we also don't want to talk about AI. This TinyTap. TinyTap is the education company that we acquired. That is one of the forces behind Open Campus. And you can actually turn a topic, if you go to the website, to create any topic. Let's say you want to do something on, ocean plastic, plastic in oceans. How do you clean it up? And then that would automatically generate a course that teaches you about plastic in oceans, and then that could become a tokenized curriculum that you would put on chain for people to purchase or for subscriptions that we had, right? So we're integrating AI for sure. It's definitely one of the things one of the tools that we have. And finally, I would say that we're also building foothold in supportive regulatory markets. We are in Hong Kong, obviously, is a very supportive market. Our founder, Yatsio, is on the Web3 task force. And we also just had announced that we have an agreement with NEOM to help them with development there. So UAE, with some presence, Saudi Arabia, Japan, and Korea. And we're pretty global overall, right? And again, I'll wrap with the fact that I'll wrap with where I began, which is that we really believe the space is nascent. There's a lot of potential. I came from traditional industries, yet I believe a lot in the space. And ultimately, look, volatility doesn't matter as long as you focus on building. And there are lots of stuff that we're experimenting on. We look for partners, and if you're curious about Mochaverse and if you're a Web2 brand and Web3 brand, and you want to work with one of the most trusted company in Web3, please reach out to myself, any parts of our team, and we'll have a good discussion. Again, very happy to be here, and see you all later.